So hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. This is Mel's Gaming here with another Way of the Hunter video. Now this video was recorded during early access as THQ Nordic and 9 Rocks Games were kind enough to allow me to take part in the early access portion for Way of the Hunter, so once again a huge thank you for that. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about blood trailing and animal shot reactions in Way of the Hunter. So you can see here we're looking in the encyclopedia, starting off with the animal damage system under the animal damage system injury and bleeding and ethical shooting sort of tab there basically. So animal damage system, injury and bleeding. Big game has the following organs which are taken into consideration when damage is calculated: brain, spine, heart, lungs, arteries, liver, stomach, intestines, flesh, bone, and skull. The result of a shot depends on the energy and the trajectory of the bullet during the impact and further on. When an animal is hit, it will always bleed, and the colour of the blood will tell you which organs have been hit. Brain and spine will be red, heart, lungs, and arteries will be pink, the liver will be a dark crimson, stomach and intestines will be red with green mixed in. Bones and flesh will be red. The bullet should always hit the target with optimal energy. This means the bullet penetration is deep enough and causes a large enough cavity that delivers sufficient damage to the target. The desired result is the most painless and fastest kill. Which, of course, goes in line with real life, trying to keep things ethical, trying to make sure that the animal dies as quickly and painlessly as possible. We don't want animals suffering. That's not the goal of hunting at all. You want that animal to go down as quickly as possible following a shot. So you're always going to be looking to go for things like heart, lungs, and arteries, because that's going to cause the quickest bleed out, as opposed to hitting it in the intestines, which isn't going to bleed out very quickly. Then it says ethical shooting helps to achieve a quick and painless kill. The animal does not suffer and dies near the place of the hit. It is also easier for the hunter to find and harvest it. It is advised to use the proper caliber at a reasonable range. It is also best to aim for the heart or lungs, as vital shots are considered the most effective. Which is basically what I was saying before. Of course, if you shoot through the heart or lungs, you're going to create a good amount of bleeding, and of course that's going to help to bring the animal down quicker, so it's going to suffer less, and obviously that's more ethical. Then moving on to animal hit reaction and post behaviour. Hit reaction. The animal's immediate reaction to a shot. Based on the immediate behaviour and movement of the animal, you can learn how successfully you place the shot. What happens after the shot is based on the damage to the internal organs. The organs can be hit directly by a penetrating bullet, or by the cavity created around the bullet. Usually animals react in the following ways. Now before we go through the list of different ways animals can react, I can actually say that throughout this video I'm going to show you a number of different hit reactions, from animals jumping to the shot as you would normally see with things like a heart-lung shot, animals falling over and getting back up and running, animals sort of freezing and then running, and all different kinds of shot reactions, and I've made sure to include a few examples in this video so you guys can actually see that. But moving on through the list, so number 1, the animal drops immediately on the spot after a hit. This happens when you hit vital organs and will deliver the fastest kill. It will also happen after you shoot an animal through the skull, but be aware that shooting an animal in its head isn't ethical. 2, the animal sprints rapidly, eventually slows, and drops down in between sprinting. You've managed to place a good shot, but it takes more time for the animal to die. 3, the animal sprints and slows down steadily until it lies down to die. Not the best shot, and can happen when you've used the wrong caliber, either a strong gut shot, or you've hit the vitals only glancingly. You must be careful approaching an animal shot this way, because even though it's overwhelmed and not as alert as before, you can spook it further and have to look for it again to harvest it. 4. The animal sprints and keeps slowing down until it lies down to recover. The animal was hurt just lightly and will lie down just to recover. To find this kind of shot animal, you will have to be very careful as you can spook it further. So with 3 and 4, basically, you don't want to run straight after that animal because it's going to be led down, wounded, and basically you're going to want to be nice and slow so that you can locate that animal and put it out of its misery rather than keep bumping it on and on and on as you keep spooking it. And then finally, number 5. The animal sprints away, you've only scratched the animal and spooked it. After a while, the animal stops bleeding and heals up. Now, something really interesting is if you then don't go and actually find that animal right then, but you encounter that animal in maybe another game session, you know, it's been a couple of days since you shot at that animal, but you found it again and you take another shot at it, once you actually harvest it, it will still remember the first shot you took at it that only wounded it, and you will actually be able to see what happened with that shot, which really surprised me, and we will take a look at that later on in the video. Then, looking at blood trails. An animal leaves a blood trail after every shot. The colour and amount can tell you a lot about the shot you placed. The colour of the blood will tell you which organs have been hit. Brain and spine, red, and they will die on the spot. Heart, lungs and arteries, pink with bubbles and a large amount of blood. Stomach and intestines, red with green mixed in. Bone and flesh, red, small amount of blood. And to examine the blood trail, interact with the blood splatter, as long as you are in one of the modes that allows you to use your hunter sense, which I have also done another video talking about the different game modes and stuff, so if you want to know about that, you can go and check out that video as well. But as long as you have your hunter sense able to be used, you can just click on the blood splatter and it will give you the information about the colour, amount, any impurities, all that good stuff. But now let's take a look at an actual animal hit reaction and a blood trail. So here I am on Transylvania hunting up in the mountains, and we have some chamois. So I'm going to take a shot at that chamois there, and as you will have seen, once the bullet had actually impacted that animal, it sort of fell over, sort of rolled a bit, kicked its legs, and then got back up and ran. Now, proceeding over to the shot site which I marked, you can see we have a good amount of blood here, and taking a look at the blood, you can actually see the air bubbles in the blood itself, which this is really, really cool and going to be very useful for the harder difficulty modes where you can't actually analyse the blood using hunter sense. You can actually take a look at the blood yourself and see if it has air bubbles in it, which was a comment that I saw people make, was why do we have to be told that it has air bubbles in it, why can't we just see that? And so I was super impressed to see that you can actually see if blood has air bubbles in it just by looking at it through a scope or through your binos and really paying attention. So you saw there was the initial shot, obviously, where the bullet will have impacted, and now we're trying to follow the blood splatters across the ground where the animal has ran. Now, there was one pointing sort of down this hill, so I was looking to see if it had gone down the hill. I wasn't entirely sure where this individual had run, because obviously there was some other individuals there, and I couldn't keep track of exactly which one it was once they got up through the trees. So I was just keeping an eye and seeing in all directions to see which way the blood was going consistently. And as you can see here, we have some more blood, this time going sort of along this bit of a hill rather than down it. And if you keep walking along here, I can see that there is more blood sort of going along this this bit of a hill, like I said. And that meant that just by following along the ground and following the blood along the ground, that we can track that animal. And I really like the way that the blood trails have actually been done in this game. Rather than going really long distances in between the blood splatters or the blood trails, they're quite close together. You will have little distances in between them, but that's quite similar to real life from everything I've seen. You won't always just have blood constantly in a straight line. It'll be on different plants, on rocks, on, you know, different bits of the environment the animal has passed through, basically. And you can see that represented in the game. It's not just blood flat on the ground in a straight line or anything like that. It sort of moves a little bit, so you do have to pay attention. It's not just in a straight line, and it is over the environment details. If the animal has gone over a log, it's on the log. If it's gone through bushes, it'll be on the bushes. Over rocks, it'll be on rocks. I've even seen blood on tree branches where animals have passed by trees with low branches. So the blood can literally be on all of the environment details, and this is so realistic, and this really sold me on the tracking in this game. It just feels so real and lifelike, and it's very doable without using the hunter sense. You can use your hunter sense to track things, or you don't have to. I was using it there to just demonstrate a little bit what it's like to use it and a little bit what it's not like to use it, sort of by going in between using it and not using it. And as you will have seen, the hunter sense helps by flashing the blood up a little bit for you, but if you want to just follow the blood along the ground and not use it, it's perfectly achievable to do that, which I think is really, really good. Now, this shot actually wasn't ideal on the chamois at all. The shot was too far back. Thankfully, it did go through into the back of the far side lung, and because of where it went through, I think it basically just tore up the back of that lung, and that's what caused this animal to die so quickly. But that shot should have been placed a lot further forward. A little bit of misjudgment on my part, but yeah, you can see, again, by using this bullet camera, it's so fantastic to be able to review your shots, and in future, it's like, okay, make sure to put your shot further forward. And this will be very helpful for anyone who maybe isn't familiar necessarily with shot placements. And even for me, I've shot many animals in games, I'm familiar with shot placements in real life, and I still put that shot a little bit far back, and it's just a nice reminder visually to be a bit more careful and aim that shot a little bit further forward. And a fantastic model there for the chamois. They are absolutely beautiful. But that was one shot reaction. Now we have a group of mule deer here, and I'm going to take this buck out. And as you will have seen, as I shot him there, he jumped to the shot. And then he sort of springs away a little bit, and then sort of goes into a head down, sort of more full sprint run as he's running away. Now, once again, we had blood with bubbles in on the ground, and he wasn't very far from that shot site. Now, everything I've ever been taught with real-life hunting is that if you see a deer kick up, like it did with this buck here, where they sort of jump up, kick their back legs and get running, it's probably a heart or lung shot, and it's probably a good shot, so it's nice to see a good, strong reaction like that. And once they kick their legs and run, like I said, it's normally an indication of a good shot. And when I saw that in the game, I was so blown away to see an animal actually react to a shot. Not just, oh, I've been shot, and then just a run until it dies, or something like that. To see the different reactions that animals can have is really quite impressive. Now here I shoot a wild boar, and as you will see, no sort of kicking of the back legs quite like the deer, but he just goes out into a straight run. And as you will have seen there, as soon as I took the shot, you could actually see the blood splatter on the ground once that bullet had impacted. And that's something else I really love about this game, is if you have a good line of sight and you can watch an animal running, you will see as it leaves sort of the blood spray along the ground, which is, in my head, incredibly impressive to actually see, because normally in other games you won't actually see the blood until afterwards, but in this game, sometimes you can see that you've made a good hit straight away. Now, as I was tracking that first boar I just shot there, as I was slowly walking along, I came across the group again, and managed to take a second boar out. I knew that there was 2 males in this group that I would like to take, and then maybe 1 or 2 of the females. So, managed to put a nice shot onto that second one, and as you will have seen, that second one fell over, did the same thing as the chamois, then got back up and ran. And I went to collect my first boar, so this was the one that we shot that just went into a straight run. And as you can see, nice clean double lung shot on this guy, and just clipping the artery as well as it went through. Which, again, can we just appreciate the fact that the animals in this game have arteries that you can hit? And the arteries actually do extend down into the legs as well, which you can hit them in the leg in an artery, and that's going to be, a shot that's going to, I would imagine, probably kill some animals. If you get an artery and it gets a strong enough bleed, that could definitely, I would imagine, kill something. I've not actually shot anything in the leg myself at this point, but obviously, thinking about an artery, that's a main blood supply, so if you hit that, it's going to bleed out. But again, using the bullet camera just to see exactly where my bullet went through on this wild boar, you can see it just clipped the artery there as it was just passing it, which of course as the bullet expands that's going to definitely hit that artery, and then it comes through into the further side lung. And again, using that bullet cam just to make sure that you learn from your shots. Now, taking a look at the blood from the boar that actually went down and then got back up, and you can see the info there for the blood. And so now we're going to go and track this one down. And you can see there the hunter sense just flashing the blood up in sort of a golden colour, just to make it easier for me to actually follow. As I mentioned, I am playing in the adventure mode, or adventurer mode, so that I can use the hunter sense and show you guys how that works. Now, once again, as I was following that blood trail for the second wild boar, I caught up with the group again, and there was actually a female that was stood alert. And I decided that I wanted to take, maybe another female from this group. I just wanted to get some money. And as you will have seen, put a shot on her there. And it looked to me like she sort of reacted to the shot, but I couldn't see exactly how. But there was definitely some reaction there. And of course, we saw the whole group go bolting away afterwards. So I knew that that should have hopefully been an okay shot. I wasn't entirely confident because of the angle that she was at, but I was hopeful that that one should have been okay. Now, taking a look at the second wild boar that I shot, this was the one that I shot whilst walking, the one that actually went down and then got back up and then ran. And you can see that the shot went through the top of both lungs and through the artery. Now, that shot should have been a lot lower. Again, just a little bit of a simple misjudgment. And I tried to include a lot of different shots and stuff in this video just to give you guys an idea. I didn't want to just have perfect shots each time. And of course, not every shot is going to be a perfect shot. That's just how things go. So I wanted to try and give you guys a few different reactions and a few different sort of shot placements and stuff just so you guys could see. Now, that was an okay shot. Apparently the shot was an artery shot that actually killed it. But like I said, could have been a slightly better shot. Now, only a few metres from where we've picked up that second wild boar was the shot site for this female. Now, as you will have seen, there was a lot of blood, lots of bubbles in the blood, so I knew that I had made a vital hit. And sure enough, picking this female up, we can see the shot placement there. Again, maybe should have been a little bit lower. I'd seem to shoot boar a little bit high normally. Maybe slight misjudgment from playing in other games, and, there's going to be some difference between games in exactly where the organs are placed, but this game seems to have an incredible amount of detail, so I'm sure I'll get used to it very quickly. But again, a nice through the lung kill shot, and as you can see, kill shot was apparently a single lung shot. Also nice to see the difference in the models for the male and the female wild boar there, but again, just a couple of different shot reactions for you guys. Now here's a different sort of clip. So we have some fallow deer here, and I've just taken a shot at that buck, and you will have seen he jumped to the shot, and then immediately he's running with his head down. Now, this is the first of a couple of clips where I wanted to demonstrate something, where if you can keep a line of sight on an animal, sometimes you will see that if they still need a little bit of extra time to bleed out, they'll go and bed down, just like this guy did. This was actually the first time I had taken a fallow deer out, and I was incredibly impressed by the amount of detail on this animal. This is by far the most detailed and most realistic fallow deer I've ever seen in a video game. It has such incredible, realistic antlers. They are just spot on. The body model looks fantastic, and yeah, I was so incredibly thrilled to actually finally harvest fallow buck. But taking a look at that shot, and that was a really, really nice shot that I was very, very happy with. Nice clean through the double lung there, even with him stood at a bit of an angle. And yeah, I was super, super happy with how that shot actually went. And you guys will have seen he barely went any distance before he actually bedded down. And it wasn't very long before he expired either. So that was a pretty ideal shot. That's really what you're looking for. You want your animals to go down nice and quickly like that. And yeah, just a really nice time to actually have a look at one of the fallow deer models as well. Like I said, they look fantastic. That is definitely by far the best fallow I've ever seen in any game. So super happy with that. And this is only a very small adult male. This is nowhere near as big as they can get, but even still was super impressed to actually see that. So yeah, tried to put some different animals in this video so you guys could have a look at different animals doing different shot reactions, and also take a look at some different models as well. That's something I've tried to do throughout my early access videos, is use different animals for examples for things, just so you guys can see a lot of the different models. Now, actually not far from where I harvested that first fallow buck, I ended up finding a 1-star mature fallow buck that was in a group, and once again he jumped to the shot, and then keeping an eye on him here, I need to just move over a little bit so that I can actually see past the trees, and you can actually see the deer just led there. Now, this time, because I had a much clearer view, just moving the marker out of the way there, and if you actually watch, we can actually see the moment when the animal actually expires, so you guys can get a bit of an idea of the time scale between the shot placement, the shot actually impacting on the animal, and then it running off, lying down, and then finally there, he's just expired. Little bit of a weird ragdoll animation when the animals do finally expire, but of course most of the time you're not going to actually see that. But it was actually interesting to see that in a game, again, with an animal actually bedding down to bleed out. And again, quite realistic, and the model just 10 out of 10, superb. So yeah, really quite happy with that. Now once again, the shot was probably a little bit further back. He was on the walk, and I wasn't entirely sure yet how walking shots need to be led in this game. In every hunting game you play, it's different with how you need to lead your shots. And of course, this is still in the early access for this game, so I'm still learning at this point what sort of lead I need to put on for walking shots or running shots, stuff like that. But that still went through both lungs, so I was pretty happy with it. Kill shot is listed as single lung, even though it went through both. But either way, really happy with that. And as you can see, this is a mature male. Has some different antlers to the one that we shot before. Not a whole lot bigger being a mature, so this one's obviously not a great quality male, but still a really, really beautiful animal, and that was a really, really nice hunt. And a really nice cash reward there as well for him, so that was really cool. Now, moving on to something a little bit different. So as you can see, we have a group of mule deer here, and I just took a shot on a mature buck that was led down. And I was quite surprised to see him bouncing away like basically nothing had happened. I felt like that was a pretty good shot, and I felt like it should have gone into the lungs. So I was kind of curious as to what had happened. So I kept an eye on the herd, hoping that I would then be able to follow up and track that buck down and actually put a fatal shot onto him. I don't like leaving wounded animals, even in a game. So I followed the herd, saw him again, and get a much cleaner shot there. He jumps, and then I thought I saw him put his head down. It looked like he was going down, and then yeah, I could see him with his head down, and I was just keeping an eye on him to see where he ran to. And I didn't see him come out the other side of those bushes there, so I felt like he had gone down somewhere in those bushes. Now, coming over to where he had been stood, you can see some blood here from the first shot. A small red little blood splatter there. Clear, no bubbles in it or anything, just some blood. But if we take a look at the second shot site here, we can see there's a lot more blood there, and it's actually a medium bleed rate. It's got bubbles in it, so I knew that that was a much better second shot. And after just looking around a little bit just to see what direction he had gone, you can see the blood trail here, and you can see the buck is actually just led there in the water. Now, I said that this was going to be a little bit of an interesting one, so you guys will have seen there that I took 2 shots at this buck. One while he was lying down, and one while he was stood quartering to me. Now, it's actually a really nice looking, decent, mature buck, but he wasn't a very high star rating. And this is why I was surprised that when I picked him up, it didn't have 2 shots, it said 3. You can see there, shot 1, shot 2, and shot 3. And then I took a look at the firearm. Grandpa's old rifle, a 30-30 Win Mag. Now, that's the starting rifle that you get at the very beginning of the game. And I know that when I very first started the game, before I was even really doing much recording, I was just testing things out. I took a shot at a mule deer, and I knew it was a bit far back. I was still getting used to it, obviously still the starter scope and everything. And, you know, the buck didn't die. I didn't think too much of it. It's something that happens, you know. In games, we end up wounding things all the time. The amount of times I've wounded things in Cold, Wild and Classic and never found them. So when I picked this guy up, after shooting him twice that you guys will have just seen there, I was amazed that this shot still showed. And this is what now tells me that if you shoot an animal and it's wounded and you don't kill it straight away, it's always going to remember that you have shot it until that animal, I assume, dies of old age or eventually gets harvested. Which is incredible. Like, that the game actually remembers the shot placement and everything. That's just incredible to me. Now, taking a look at the shot while this buck was lying down, and it did go through to a lung there, as you guys can see. Now, it's not a great shot. I thought the lungs would be a little bit further forward than they actually were, and I should have placed that shot a little bit further back, I'll be honest. But it did go through to a lung, wasn't enough to kill it. Now this third shot goes all the way through this lung and basically completely shreds it, and of course that is more than enough to finally put this poor mule deer down. And you know, maybe other YouTubers might not necessarily include stuff like this. You know, at the end of the day, this is a game, it's not a real life animal, so it's not going to have actually suffered or anything, but it still kind of feels rough to see 3 shots on even a virtual animal, and I did kind of feel really bad about it. But at the same time, it's a good learning point, and it's a good thing to be able to show you guys and talk to you guys about, so that you know if you wound an animal and it runs off and you can't find it, it will still be out there on your map, and one day you might shoot him again as a much bigger deer, and you pick it up and then it says that you shot it once before, ages ago, with a completely different rifle. And yeah, that just completely took me by surprise, and once again goes to show the level of realism and detail in this incredible game. Now, moving on here to take a look at a little herd of Mouflon. Now, I decided that I wanted to hunt some Mouflon. I scouted the herd, and there was this individual hanging out here in the middle, a nice mature male. So we're going to take him out there, and once again you'll have seen him actually drop, get back up after kicking his legs, and you can see the blood splatter on the ground already. And he runs away slowly. A little bit of framiness as it's running, but do remember, guys, this is early access, so there are going to be little frame issues and stuff where they just need to polish it up a little bit. And then he goes over there and just lies down and expires completely. Now, I watched for a while and then there was no ragdoll animation, so I assumed that it just died as it led down. So yeah, that was really interesting to actually see. It was a bit different to with like the fallow deer where we saw them ragdoll. This one I did not see ragdoll after a very, very long time, so that was kind of interesting. And then as I was going to pick that individual up, I noticed that there was a small male that was actually stuck on a rock in the river there, and I decided that I would go and try a spine shot just to see what would happen and try and get a drop shot to show you guys, seeing as he was stuck anyway. So this is just a young male, and as you will see, I did get the spine, and that did cause him to drop on the spot. Now, a couple of interesting things about that. Obviously, in a lot of games, the spine won't kill an animal outright. Normally, they'll end up needing a second shot, or it's just counted as a bad shot that will take them a long time to die. So that was interesting to see that seems to be an okay shot in this game. And like I said, do remember this is early access, so him getting stuck on that rock in the river I assume is something that will be ironed out in future. Obviously sometimes animals do get stuck on terrain in games, but just wanted to mention that as well. And something as well, if you take a look at this guy's horns, he's very, very uneven, with one horn going out to the side and one curling like really tight into his head. So very, very interesting to see, and shows that the animals in this game are going to be able to have those kind of differences, which was also really cool to see, as well as that shot reaction. This was something else that was interesting that happened. I was driving through some private land as I was going to one of the sort of outposts, one of the cabins, to go and try and work something out that I was trying to learn about in the game. And I knew that you could accidentally hit animals and that roadkill was a thing if you accidentally hit them with the vehicle. And this group of roe deer came bolting across the road, and this huge buck got stuck on the side of the Jeep and was basically running alongside the Jeep. So I quickly got into photo mode to take some pictures of this incredible looking roe deer. And you can see that he finally gets unstuck and goes to run off. And I thought it must be a 5-star mature with antlers like that. So I was very surprised to see that he was only a 2-star mature. Now, I came back into that area probably a few hours later at this point in the day, and I basically knew that I wanted to hunt around the edge of that private property and see if I could catch up with this group of roe deer again. And thankfully they were grazing outside the border of the private property, and this time he was showing as a 3-star mature, so he'd gained a star. So I'm not entirely sure what had added to his quality, because he looked pretty much the same. But as you will have seen, it was a very strong shot on this guy, huge amount of blood, and you will have seen his reaction straight away was like almost limping away, and he really didn't go far before he expired. And this was the first roebuck I took out in this game, and my gosh, what a specimen. When I saw this, I still can't believe this isn't a 5-star. This is incredible, and I can only think if this is a 3-star that they've based these roe deer off of like world record class bucks, which gets me so excited to try and get some, you know, even bigger monsters, because this to me is just an insane looking buck, absolutely huge. A good roe buck normally is a 6 point, this is definitely an 8 point, and he is absolutely incredible. So tall. You know, I've heard before people say a good way to judge a trophy roe deer is it's got to be well above the ears. Well, look at the size of this buck. I did even end up taxiing this, even though it's only a 3-star, because I don't know what makes this a 3-star versus a 5-star, and I want to see a 5-star compared to this guy, because to me this is an incredible buck, and if I shot a buck like this in real life I'd be blown away. Just an incredible buck. The only thing is his antlers are quite smooth, there's not a whole lot of purling, and his bases aren't incredibly heavy, the coronets, the very bases of the antler where they meet the skull, called the coronets, they're not incredibly heavy, and they can get bigger than that on real life roe deer, so I'll be interested to see if that's a thing on the 5-star. I definitely had to include that buck in this video. Now, that was another interesting shot reaction. I actually included this clip in another video as well, talking about the difficulty settings. As I shot that wild boar, you will have seen he sort of froze and sort of like stiffened up and froze, and he just sort of paused there for a second and then went to run, which you can actually see it even in the camera that I took a second shot there, and that was because he was there for another second and I thought maybe I'd missed or something. So that was an interesting one. Now, I decided basically that I was going to just take a very quick shot there on a fallow buck that I'd been chasing for quite a while. And unfortunately, as you will see from the blood, it didn't pay off. Small amount of clear red blood, no bubbles, no nothing. So I knew it was just a flesh wound effectively, or a bone had been hit and it hadn't killed him. Spent maybe half an hour tracking him and his herd down to finally actually put him down there with a much cleaner second shot. And you'll see he walks with his head up for a second and then head goes down and he starts charging down this hill trying to get away. Now, walking over to the shot site for shot number 2, and you'll see the difference in the blood. Much more blood. It's a medium amount of blood, but still a lot more than at the previous shot site. Very clear bubbles in it, so definitely a good, strong heart or lung shot or an artery shot. And yeah, that should have been a nice clean shot, and sure enough he didn't go very far. Now, I've not made any just straight heart shots in this game, so I don't know if that will just drop an animal, but I can imagine, you know, in real life sometimes with a heart shot an animal does run, and they seem to have gone with as much realism as possible in this, so maybe they will run a little bit with that based off of what it says in the encyclopedia. But either way, an incredible buck. I was really fortunate to be able to track this guy down, and once again, trying to get as many different shots and shot reactions in this video for you guys to see, and as many different shot placements as I could. So one like this where I kind of butchered it a little bit as well, kind of like the mule deer, was ideal for talking and looking at, so it kind of worked out in the end as well. But a really gorgeous buck, and considering he wasn't a very high star mature buck, and knowing that they get a lot bigger than this clearly is pretty awesome. And you can see the first shot was straight into the spine, the second shot went through the lungs, and that took him out very nicely. But yeah, that's a 3-star mature fallow deer, so they must get quite a bit bigger than that if they can get up to, you know, a 5-star mature. So very excited to see the potential for that, because that buck already to shoot in the wild here in the UK would be a real nice trophy buck. So it'll be intriguing to see how big they actually get. But that's kind of a look at some different shots and shot reactions in this game. So you can have animals jumping up and kicking their back legs and running. You can have them freeze up and then they'll run, which, you know, some people might think, oh, that might be a bug, but I think that's probably intended. And I've heard many stories from people, including like from Flinter, talking about a deer that he shot, where they've been shot and then they just stand there like, what happened? And you almost think you've missed. So I wonder if that's what they were going for with that shot where you could see with the wild boar where he sort of froze. And that was exactly why I took that second shot, was because I thought maybe I'd somehow missed. But they were both shots through the lungs, so it kind of lines up with a lot of the real life stories I've heard. And then of course animals dropping on the spot if you hit them straight through the spine and not just in the vertebrae. Of course it sounds like they'll drop if you headshot them, but I haven't actually headshot anything yet. The fact you can get artery shots, I think that's incredible. The bullet cam giving you guys so much detail into your shots and your shot placement, I think is really useful as well as interesting. And certainly something that I'm glad to see in game. And yeah, I also think it's fantastic to see shot reactions like the animal actually, you know, being knocked off of its feet by the impact and then sort of rolling over, getting back up and running, because again, that's something I've seen with real life hunting. So I think they've done a lot in terms of trying to make the shot reactions as realistic as possible, and I'm super impressed with that. And also the blood trailing, as I mentioned with the chamois at the beginning, really impressed with how all of that works. And yeah, just super impressed with it all. I'm very pleased. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. That's probably long enough for this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. A couple of really nice animals in here that I wanted to share as well. But hopefully this video has been useful and informative, giving you guys a look at some more gameplay, some more of the animal models, all of that good stuff. So yeah, hopefully you will have enjoyed this one. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all your support as always. It really does mean so much to me. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.